I'm John Evans. Welcome to another episode of One on One. Kathleen Baker was just 19 years old when she won gold and silver medals with the U.S. swimming team at the 2016 Olympic Games in Rio. She did that despite being diagnosed with Crohn's disease several years earlier. She set her sights on going back to the Games in 2020, but she never got the chance. Now, the North Carolina native who broke world records in the backstroke and became a national and Olympic champion is living here at the beach and supporting a project that could train the next generation of elite athletes. Kathleen Baker, so good to have you on the One-on-One with John Evans podcast. Thank you so much for coming in.
I'm so happy to be here. I mean, I love Wilmington, and I'm excited to sort of talk to you about my swimming career and what I'm doing now.
It is. It's fun to have you here. And, you know, you've accomplished so much in 27, almost 28 years on the face of the earth so far. I don't think it would be fair to ask you what your most proudest moment is. But I do want to ask you to start off, when Mom put you in that summer swimming league at 7 or 8 in Winston-Salem, did you have any earthly idea or dream at that point that you'd accomplish what you've accomplished so far?
I think right when I started, the reason I got into swimming was I wanted to go off the diving board by myself. And my mom said if I could do summer swimming and swim that whole lap by myself, like I wouldn't have to get her permission to come watch me. So it started like that. But the second I got into it, my mom turned to my dad and was like, we're definitely going to have a competitive swimmer on our hands. I loved it from pretty much the second I started. I have such a deep love for the sport, so much past my accolades, but in the training, the learning, the way you can push yourself. So I think by the time I was 8 years old, I wanted to be like Michael Phelps. So it was pretty quick.
And did you have those dreams at that age, or were you just like, I love swimming, I want to jump, I want to dive, I want to swim? Did you have a concept of Olympics, winning medals at that age?
I think every kid, in summer swimming, is I want to be Michael Phelps, I want to win the 8 gold medals. So I feel like I, at that age, was just a part of that group. But by the time I was 10, 12 years old, really I feel like I conceptualized what it took to get to the highest level already at such a young age.
You're a spokesperson for the Wilmington Aquatic Center right now. You've become very involved with that, and you're supporting the proposed Olson Farm Recreational Village project out there here in the county. Why? What gets you so excited about that project?
Well, one, I'm just so excited to have a pool in Wilmington. I'm biased. I mean, I probably like pools more than anyone here. But I'm from Winston-Salem, and I grew up without a 50-meter pool. And when I was 14 years old, I begged my parents if they would relocate or take me to Charlotte every single day to train, and they did. For the first several years, they would drive me twice a day, even every single day to Charlotte, just to get access to a 50-meter pool. Because at that age, I'm 14 years old. I'm already on a junior national team. I'm progressing to be on a national team. I have this huge potential, and I didn't have access to that potential being in Winston-Salem. We had Bolton, which is a public summer pool that's only open 2.5 months out of the year, or it gets up to 94 degrees in the summertime. It wasn't something that I really felt like I was getting the best access to, and that's just one of the reasons. And then second, I think Wilmington, it just lacks the pool space to make sure that everyone here living in the coast knows how to swim. I think that's a huge issue. I think that's always going to be an issue, and I hope that this becomes something that can really help that.
That was my next question. Is a facility like that needed here?
Yeah, I 100%, as an elite athlete, I believe it does. But then as well as just from the Learn to Swim program for our veterans, for our lifeguard program, I think it goes so much deeper than that. So much in this community being so close to the water. We're water-based, really, everyone is around the water all the time.
Right.
And you'd be surprised how many, adults and kids don't know how to swim.
You have another reason, though, for supporting the project is because of the military angle, because of support with military members who have, let's call them issues, mental health issues, PTSD, or other issues like that. So you've seen that firsthand too, have you not?
Yes, my husband's a retired MARSOC Marine, and he's also a disabled veteran. And for him, the community, it's when he got out, he felt like he lost his tribe. He didn't have these people he was around all the time, his team, his people he's gone through such hard things with. He lost that, and it's really hard adjustment. And through Access, which is partnering with the Wilmington Aquatic Center, they're going to have a program for veterans. And if anything, it's just for veterans to be around the same people like them, to be able to go through something and to have access to a great facility, whether that's to play basketball, go to the gym, swim, like even in anything beyond that, to just sort of hang out with each other and to feel like they have that tribe again. And that's something my husband and I are both really passionate about.
If a member of the military is missing a leg or missing an arm, people can see their injury. But in your husband's case and so many other cases, they're injuries that people can't see.
Yeah.
What does America not know about that?
I mean, my husband suffered like a traumatic brain injury from a training accident, and that's something no one's ever going to be able to see. And like what he goes through on the side, that's not something that you see even day to day, or you would never even know that he's a disabled veteran. And I think that sometimes makes that community even harder. And for him, like he looks at buddies who have been shot or have lost a limb, and it's like they're going through something completely different than he is. And that's an even larger struggle in his opinion. But I look at it being like those mental health injuries or things that you just can't see, like a traumatic brain injury, are just as important. I mean, so many veterans like turn to substance abuse or have mental health issues from just disabled, like coming out as a disabled veteran, and then it becomes a mental health issue. And without like the support in the community, like that they don't have that like support from their like veterans or even just people who are like-minded like them, like I think that that's really, really, really tough for them.
Was it hard for you to get used to? Was it hard for you as a now spouse of a military disabled veteran? Was it difficult for you to understand?
I think a little bit, but at the same time, like my husband's my husband, he's my best friend, my biggest supporter, and will always be there for me. And I hope I was always there for him when he struggled.
Right.
And I think just giving the perspective of I'm a military wife, but I'm not in that community, but I can see that community and see how hard it is for him, and just understanding that there's going to be this, like when you're getting out, whether you're disabled or not, just getting out in the Marine Corps, getting out as a service member, or really anyone, and like leaving something you've been so passionate about is going to be a hard adjustment. And then adding a disability on top of that is beyond hard. And just being there for your significant other or your friend, or doing things with them and bringing them out of the house. Or for us, it was like going surfing, walking our dog, being at the beach, like doing these things that no matter what, we love them. And I think that's what really helped, is just sort of like returning back to like the basics.
Yeah, and kind of getting used to each other.
Yes, yeah.
I would imagine is probably part of the growth in your relationship is concerned.
There's always an adjustment period. People always say there is when you come home from a deployment, or even for his case, I mean, he'd be gone weeks for training exercises. There's always an adjustment, but now that he's out, I feel like we're both loving it. We see each other a lot more than we have ever seen each other, which is pretty great. Yeah, and not to mention, like in the military, you have a hard time planning your life. Now we're like 6 months from now, we can plan a vacation on, not worried you're going to be deployed or gone or whatever. So there's a lot of joy around it too. So I feel like we've been able to see both sides of it and feel really grateful that he has been able to serve his country and now enjoying being out and being able to just be with each other.
It's kind of cool that you're still in the years of your relationship where that time together, because sometimes I think if I'm home during the day, like I happened to be yesterday, I'm looking for something to do, and my wife's like, man, you're never here. Go to work for a little while, please. You're interrupting my flow around the house. Most people know Kathleen Baker, Olympic athlete.
Yeah.
But they don't know that the physical struggles you had, you've talked about it, you haven't kept it secret.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people don't know the struggles you had with Crohn's disease and how much it forced you to work even harder to be an elite athlete. When did you get diagnosed? How did that all kind of enter into your life?
Yeah, around 12 years old. I was diagnosed like right when I turned 13, but was extremely symptomatic at 12 years old. I pretty much had like every gastrointestinal symptom you could think of. And fortunately for me, my mom was amazing, but I also was swimming so aggressively at that time and going to so many practices. Like my swimming just started to plummet. Like out of nowhere, I couldn't even like finish my practice. I was losing so much body weight, like for someone who was already really fit at 12 years old. And now I'm like, can't go to swim practice. I'm getting sick all the time. I'm running fevers. I just am having like the worst time ever. Like, and when I was diagnosed, I literally felt like my entire world was over. Like I look back on that self and like I'm 13 years old. And like for me, I wanted to be an Olympic swimmer then. Like I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to give everything to this sport. And I felt like, why me? Why would I get this?
Right.
Like, you know, like why wouldn't this happen to someone who didn't care as much about their sport? Like I was willing to sacrifice anything for it. If that was like sleepovers, going to football games, moving, whatever it was, like I was ready to sacrifice for my sport, just for how much I loved it and enjoyed it. And I felt like being diagnosed with Crohn's was like devastating. And when I Googled like Olympic athletes with Crohn's disease at the time in like 2011, 2010, it was like a kayaker or like an offensive lineman entertainment. I'm like, oh my God, I have nothing in common with these people. Like, this
Yeah.
is so sad. But now when you Google Olympic athletes with Crohn's disease, my name is like the first one to come up. And
Right.
that's a huge success story. Not to say that I didn't have extreme struggles through that and still do, but just being able to be an advocate and to show like you are capable of achieving so much.
Did there come a time, was there a time or two along the way? Because again, from some of the research that I did, you saw several doctors.
Yes.
You went through several different kinds of treatment until you found one that really worked for your swimming and your health at the same time. Were there dark days?
Oh,
were there
yeah.
were there days that you just sat down and cried like, I'm never going to be able to achieve my dreams?
Yeah, I mean, especially like in your adolescence, like that was hard enough. Like you're like a
Yeah.
teenager to begin with, and then add all of this on top of it. I'm already on the national team. I'm going to Worlds. I'm on an Olympic track. I have Crohn's disease. Like I have a lot going on already, and then
Yeah.
I'm also just like 16 to begin with. And I just remember like having a couple of breakdowns, and my mom being like, "Kathleen, like you can just like walk away from swimming if you want to." I'm like, "Why would you ever say that? Like,
Yeah.
why would you think I would want that?" Just because like they felt like it would be easier for me, but in my heart, like there was never an option for me to do that, nor did I ever want that. People ask
Right.
me all the time, "Did you ever want to quit?" And I honestly say no, I didn't. And there's been a lot of really struggles in finding the right medication, getting out of what we consider like a flare up, and just like the residual side effects that come with it. Like I have a compromised immune system, I have low bone density, and just sort of like the stuff that you deal with from having Crohn's disease, a chronic illness. But fortunately for me, I credit a lot to like the patient doctor experience. I had phenomenal pediatric gastroenterologists. I have a great GI doctor here, which is awesome. Like
Yeah.
to find one when you move to a new community, that's
Yeah,
a really big
tough.
struggle.
Yeah. When did mom or coach realize, aside of that first day that you got in, that we're going to have her competitively swim? Was there some time that they sat down and they told you, hey, look, Kathleen, if you work hard enough, you can do this? When was that time? Do you remember?
Yeah, I think around 12, I was sort of like my biggest breakout year in the sport of swimming. I broke every North Carolina state record in every single event, which is a very hard thing to do. From the mile to like a 50,
Yeah.
I broke it. And I was already at the point where you can't recruit me for colleges, but I could already go to Division I colleges at 12 years old and get probably a full ride. So I was already on this track. I was like the youngest person to qualify for a national championship. I was breaking national age group records. And at 12, that was sort of like right when everyone was like, wow, like this is going to be like something big. Even if I wasn't going to make the Olympics, like I was going to be an incredible swimmer who went to a Division I school, who probably would do wonderful at NCAAs. So around that age is when I felt like people were like, my coach would sit me down and be like, what are your goals? And let's talk about how we're going to get there. And that's sort of, I'm a big goal setter.
And how did that do to your training? Did you go from practicing 1 hour a day, 4 hours a day to 10 hours? I mean, what
Yeah.
did that do?
I mean, I have really great parents who held me back in the sport for like as long as they possibly could. I'm like gnawing at the door trying to get to swim practice. And they're like, you're only going to go 4 days a week when you're 12 because you're 12. Like
Yeah.
I still should have a life. Like there's going to be so much in your time in your later in my career where I have to sacrifice so much. So why do you need to do it now? And I feel like that's why I was able to be successful so long. And I had a really great coach who held me back. And they're like, you're still getting faster. Why do we need to add more practices? You're just going to keep growing. So I stayed pretty like on the low end of swimming. I think for this sport, I didn't do 2 practices a day, like at a young age. I didn't weightlift until I was a senior in high school. And all of that, I think, made me become able to be going best times at 23 or 24 years old in the sport.
Yeah. Why is backstroke good for you? Is it that you're tall and lanky, I guess is
Yeah.
the term?
Yeah.
Is that why the backstroke works well for you? Or did you try others and just like this better?
I think your stroke sort of chooses you. Like, I think
Really?
you sort of get stuck with it. Like, yeah, and I trained all the other strokes. I swam the 200 individual medley, which is a 50 of each stroke. And that was one of my best events. I had the American record in that as well. So I was all around pretty good at all of the strokes, but backstroke was by far like my sort of ticket to success there. And I think like I'm 5'8", and that's like on the pretty short side of swimming. I mean, I'm racing girls who are 6'3", 6'1", like, so I think that for me, it just ended up being the stroke. I have really flexible ankles. I have a really great, like, consistent, like, technique with it. So I think it sort of chooses you, and you sort of finesse it as you get older.
Did you like it? Did you like other ones better?
I think I liked it. I would say that I don't know if I liked another one better, but I
Right.
loved that I was able to swim all 4 strokes so I didn't get bored. Like, even when I went to a meet, I was just, like, swimming other events. events. Sometimes people specialize too young and they're just stuck swimming the same event all the time. So like I swim 100 backstroke. Let's say I'm not going to best time that year in the 100-meter backstroke, but I'm swimming the 200 IM and I'm going to best time in that. That's awesome. So I had like other events to sort of fill the well when you're like plateauing maybe in another event.
Right. So in 2013 World Championships or Junior Championship, World Junior Championships, you won 4 medals.
Yes.
You decide to go to Cal. Why Cal? Why
They were
did
like
you
one of
decide
the
that?
best swim programs like in the entire world pretty much to go to. They have a great reputation for training not only great NCAA swimmers, which a lot of people don't realize is NCAA swimming is in a 25-yard pool and the Olympics is in a 50-meter pool. So
Right.
it's very different. But they had the ability to sort of train people for both, which was important to me.
Okay. No North Carolina schools? I mean, you wanted to, was
Yeah.
it California or bust, or was it just Cal or bust? At that
I
point?
looked at Cal, Stanford, Texas, UVA, and Georgia and Tennessee were sort of my top choices, and ended up taking trips to Texas and Cal and ended up going to Cal. And I think that it was a really great experience. If you know anything about Cal Berkeley, it's very different than probably Wilmington is, or I'm from Winston-Salem. So it was a little bit of a culture shock, but I think like that gave me such a different perspective on life, being around such a different group of people. And at the time, the North Carolina schools were not really at the caliber that
Right.
I would want to be a part of. Now NC State is one of the best like swimming like colleges in the entire country, but just at that time they were building that program.
Right. Yeah. And 2015-16, you made the U.S. national team. At that point in time, was Rio in your windshield? I mean, that's where you wanted to go?
Yes, yeah, totally. That was like the goal, is to make that Olympic team, get on in whatever event I thought I could get on, which is in the backstrokes at the time, either 100 or 200 backstroke, and sort of just pray that I got on that team.
Well, you were at the 2012 Olympic trials. Did being there then help you in 16, knowing what you were going to face and everything like that?
For sure. I mean, just getting, like, it's a huge, huge meet. Like, I'd never been to a meet that had 15,000 fans at it. And I went in 2012, I think I was 15 years old, and sort of just was, like, blown away getting to be around, like, the celebrities of swimming that I looked up to, which is
Right.
funny. 4 years later, I'm on an Olympic team with them. But at the time, like, I just looked up to them so much, and just getting used to being able to do a prelims race, a semifinals race, and a finals race. That was, like, sort of my first experience doing that, and I learned a lot.
And so I imagine then the benefit of 2012 helped you in 16. You go and you make the Olympic team in 16. You get that spot. What's the mindset? Is Kathleen, I'm just happy to be there? Or is Kathleen, I'm not going to just be happy. I'm going to bring home hardware in 2016. What were you thinking going in?
I definitely had like a breakout performance at the Rio Olympics,
Right.
which is hard to do. A lot of people don't perform their best at the Olympics because it's the most amount of pressure there is in the entire sport.
Sure.
But for me, I went from seeded 12th in the 100 backstroke to winning a silver medal. So I moved up quite a bit. And going into there, sort of my only goal was to get on our medley relay. And if you're on that medley relay, you're probably winning a gold medal. So I wanted to get on that medley relay and show that I was capable of swimming that in the final, standing on the podium with the team. And that was sort of my main goal. And I actually really didn't think that like winning a medal at this Olympics was, in my individual race in the 100 backstroke, was really going to be the time. But quickly in prelims, I had like a breakout swim and I was seeded first. And then my coach and I quickly had to sit down and was like, you can do this. Like, you got this. You got it.
Yeah.
And I just remember being like so grateful for that journey. Like, I went up to the stands to see my family. I'm so lucky that they were there. And I was like, Mom, like, I have literally accomplished everything I've wanted to the sport of swimming. I've came out with my story about Crohn's disease. I've become now, I'm getting all like this flooded of DMs of parents and kids who are struggling. I've gone to the Olympics. I'm seeded first going in to win a medal. Like, I don't care what happens. I just care if I can just get a medal. I'm like, I don't care if it's a bronze, gold, or silver. Like, if I can just get my hand on the wall and get a medal, that's all I cared about.
Right.
Then.
And then when you get there, because you've been swimming internationally, you've been swimming against international competition. So when you go in, do you know, I can beat her, I can beat her, the 1-2 lanes down, I'm not sure, but did you have the confidence in knowing that there were athletes that you had beaten before that would give you the chance for that?
Yeah, I think in a lot of sports you need to have a little bit of delusional energy. So I've never not walked out and thought I could win. Like, I think you have to believe that. Like, deep down, even, like, you just have to tell yourself. And for me, like, it wasn't even looking at my competitors, but looking at myself, being like, I've done every possible thing I could do to get here, and I couldn't have done something better. And that's sort of how I look at, like, my mentality sort of going into the races, not on an individual, like looking at my competitors next to me, but really believing in me and being like, I can do this. I'm capable of this. This is what I can do. And it's hard because swimming's individual. So like you can only really control you.
Right.
So like looking at yourself and being like, I can do this. I'm going to perform my best, and knowing what that best is. And hopefully that best is getting on the podium.
Yeah. You can't like reach over and pull that person next door to you.
There's no like stopping people on that side of things. But there's sometimes a little bit of games you play. Like some people are more chatty in like the ready room when we're getting ready to go out. So you sort of can see how people are preparing, or like you see how they're doing during the rest of the season. So you know, like, okay, I don't have to worry about lanes 7 and 8. Like I'm only worrying about lanes 2 and 3 or whatever it is. So
I mean, you had the fastest time in the semis, and you won your semi heat.
Yeah.
In that ready room before the final, nervous energy, sitting there looking straight down, headphones on, looking at others. What was that prep like? I can't fathom. I mean, I played sports in high school and stuff like that, but I can't fathom what it's like being around the 8 best performers in the world, and you're one of them, and you're about to go and see who is the best.
Yeah, I mean, it's like gives me the jitters thinking about it, but I love the nervous energy. Like I live for that feeling of like, you know, like feeling like your heart's in your stomach. Like I love that feeling and try to turn that into something positive. But I remember sitting there in the ready room being like, I probably look like I'm like a red tomato right now. I was like overheating. I was so nervous. Like one of my like teammates who actually swam for Zimbabwe, but I trained with her, came up to me and was like, do you need some water? Like, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm actually totally fine. I'm just so nervous because I'm 19. Like I'm still 19. Like that's just like I'm learning life at the time. Like this is still one of the like my first couple international major meets at the time, and I'm seated first at the Olympic Games. So honestly, I'm pretty nervous sitting in that ready room.
Yeah. You went through the race, you got out, you had the lead, and then it was an amazing stretch by Katinka at the end. When you watch that race now, when you watch it back, what goes through your mind?
I think a lot of people look at that and are like, oh, like, do you wish like you could have won the gold? And for me, like, I look at that silver medal and I could not be like more proud of that. Like I won a best time in an Olympic final and had a breakout meet, and I felt like I performed far better than I ever thought I was capable of. And so when I look at that and I'm like, and I swim my race really different than she does. Like I go out really hard. I'm like out of the gates. I'm going hard and I hang on at the end. And the Katinka, who I'm racing from Hungary, comes back really strong. She swims the 400 IM and the 100 backstroke, which is a pretty large range of events. So like her ability to do that is incredible. She's an incredible athlete and was having the Olympic Games of a lifetime. So for me, like I really was proud to get my hand on the wall to win that silver medal. And when I look at it, I'm like so much like more proud of that silver medal than I even am of the gold. Like I feel like I put so much into that by myself to get that silver medal, and shocked myself, shocked my coach, shocked my parents. And that's what's really cool about it.
And I don't think there's a better smile than yours on that podium.
Oh yeah.
I don't, because I think there was a pride. I think there was I did this for the United States, but I also think there was I don't know what the word is. It's not satisfaction, but it's a combination of those three.
Yeah.
It's a combination of pride. Hey, America, look what I did for you. But it's also, this was the best I can do, and I'm good with that.
Yeah. I mean, I just felt like I had so much relief. Like, I was just so excited. I have so much joy for it. And that's what my coach always said. Like, you know, there's no one that loves swimming like you love swimming. So getting to, like, reflect that on the podium and to be able to just, like, celebrate that success. Like, I just remember my roommate at the Olympic Village also won a medal that night. And we were, like, so giddy. We stayed up the whole night because we couldn't even fall asleep. And then we, like, went to the dining hall at, like, 3 a.m. and got, like, ice cream popsicles. And, like, for me, like, it's just, like, some of those memories that, like, you don't see or you don't hear about that, like, make that even, like, the best experience ever.
And the medley relay, that's a different animal because you swim first. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, what am I going to do for the next 3 minutes? Obviously you're cheering on your teammates and such, but that's got to be a completely different animal because not only are you competing for your country, but you've got 3 people who are relying on your performance for the opportunity to earn one of those medals too.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely don't want to be the person who swims bad on that relay, like, because you're not doing it just for you now. You're doing it for, like, 3 other, like, females who you are so proud to share that experience with, and you don't want to let anyone down. It's hard enough to let yourself down and let your country down, but when you're letting 3 other people who are going to swim right behind you down, like, that that's just a whole different beast to deal with. And luckily, I had a great swim. I was right where I wanted to be.
Yep.
And honestly, it's sort of nice. You get to go first, get it over with, and then you're just like, please, everyone else, please do good so we can like continue on. And we ended up breaking that world record, I think, the next summer.
Yeah.
So it was pretty exciting.
Did you know at any point in time before Simone came back and touched, did you have an idea after second leg, third leg, or was it when Simone was 25, 30 yards from the wall, did you know that you had the gold medal?
Yeah, I think that we felt like we were going to have it from the second we started. We believed in ourselves so much that we were like, we've got this. We know we can do it. Everyone swim what they can do, and we'll win this. And so I feel like every leg of the race, everyone was swimming exactly what they needed to do. So I knew that once Simone dove in, like, we knew what she was capable of, knew what type of swim meet she was having, and knew that we were going to come in first on that relay.
What's your relationship now with Simone and Lily and Dana? Is there still, even years later, still that bond between the four of you?
Yeah, I mean, for us, like, that was all of our, like, I guess for Lily, Simone, and I, that was our first Olympic Games. So I think that you really share, like, a really special bond. Simone was in my suite at the Olympics. Lily and I have been on the national team together for 10 years. So I think there's, like, so much, like, sort of history behind it. And, like, to share that relay, I meant from 2016 to 2020, I was on the relay with Simone and Lily. So, like, we've always sort of had each other. Like, we've been a part of this together. We'll always have this medley relay. It's the last event of an 8-day meet, which is grueling to do to begin with. So to have that mentality and know, like, that we're always going to be there for each other. And then Dana, that was sort of at the end of her career. She's someone I looked up to a lot in the sport of swimming. She went to Cal Berkeley. I trained with her some. She was like a mom already when at the Olympics in 2016. So she was just in such a different phase of her life, but at the same time, such a role model and someone I could look up to. And we'll always share, like, a great connection with all of them.
So in 2017, you went out, won 2 golds and a bronze at the Worlds that year. 2018, you broke the world record for the backstroke at the U.S. Swimming Championships. Would you say that's when you were at the top of Kathleen's game, that you were the best that you were at that point?
I think, like, the world record pretty surprised me. I wasn't, like, really thinking I was going to do it there. But when I reflect back on my swimming career, I think, like, when I look at my training, what I was doing, the best I ever was swimming was in 2020 when the Olympics got postponed, which is, like, so devastating because you train for 4 years for something to have to wait a whole nother year. But looking back on that year, like, leading into the 2020 games, I was #1 in the world in all 3 of my events. And I don't think I was ever at that capability until that year, and was doing things in practice that, like, I was so shocked with, that my coach was shocked with. Then it was like, I cannot believe, like, I am swimming the best I ever have leading into the Olympics, which is really hard to do.
Yeah.
So I would say, like, when I look back on that, but breaking that world record in 2018 outside on American soil is just, like, probably my favorite swimming memory I've ever had.
Not getting the chance in 2020, and then having the issue with the bone break in 21, not getting on the Olympic team. Was there any kind of, oh man, this is fair, this is, why? I mean, I don't see you being that way, but maybe deep down, was there?
I think in 2021, I broke my foot in 2 places and tore 3 tendons running into the ocean, like, 4 weeks before I was supposed to go.
Yeah.
So did not get to go. And, like, for me, that was so devastating. Like, I'm in, like, a full panic attack in my wetsuit on the beach with my boyfriend at the time, now husband. But that was, like, one of the worst memories of my entire life for both of us. To be honest, he got back from a deployment 4 days before I broke my foot, leading into trying to make the Olympic team again when I'm still swimming amazing and really have, like, my sights set on going to the Olympics in not only 1 event but 3 events. I think, like, that stage of my life was really tough. But I look at it and I, like, never swam just for my accolades. I swam for how much I enjoyed it. And when I really think back to that time and what I was doing on reflecting is that, like, it's selfish to only swim to win an Olympic medal. Like, and I've accomplished everything in the sport of swimming. Like, I have a world record. I have an Olympic medal. I have a world championship. I won NCAAs. I've had an American record. Like, I have literally accomplished everything you can in the sport of swimming. So for me, like, being able to reflect back on that and being like, I'm doing this for something so much bigger than just making the Olympic team, even though that's the only goal I care about.
Sure.
At the same time, just being able to have enough clarity and to be able to be like, I have a great relationship with my family, and, like, my now husband was there for me. It was just, like, this very instrumental part of my life, and I knew I didn't want to go out on that note, so I swam all the way until 2022 when I moved out here in Wilmington.
Right.
And I feel like I was able to sort of just enjoy the sport and do the things I love.
You see, that's, again, the interviews that I've seen, you turned a life devastating event into something positive.
Yeah.
And to me, that shows the depth and the breadth of your character. Because to me, I mean, this is just John. John would have been as angry and as bitter as possible.
Yeah.
And I imagine there were probably some moments there.
I had some moments. I had ice cream every day for like 5 weeks, filling that void, like putting a Band-Aid on it. And there's some tears. And not to mention, like, I mean, I have a broken foot too. So I'm like pretty miserable to begin with. Like, I can't drive because I broke my right foot. Like, I am not weight bearing, but I'm still trying to train, which is like a whole other thing. It took me so long to heal because I tried to train through it, even trying to compete. Like, I was on a knee scooter at Olympic trials. But when I look back on that experience, so many coaches complimented me because, like, there was no tears on the pool deck. I was so happy for my friends who made it and was there for those people. But my parents always like said to me, like, we do not care how good of a swimmer you are. We care how good of a person you are. Yeah. And I think like a lot of that like is instilled in me from like a very young age. Like they're not supporting me just because I'm Kathleen Baker, the Olympic swimmer. Like they're supporting me because like I'm their kid. Like they love me, they care, and they want me to like care in a way that isn't just about being a good swimmer. Yeah,
and I think that, and again, I think that makes you an even better role model. Personally, you can admit that you had those dark times. Yeah. But even now you've turned it, and even then and now you've turned it into something more positive. And kudos to you.
Thank you.
Because being at that level, I imagine that the disappointment then even goes even deeper.
Oh, so deep. And it's still something that luckily I feel so great about talking about it now or even right after it. But definitely was hard. And I always say in like interviews, like it's unrealistic to not have a moment. It's like have your moment and then move on, because like you can't live in the dark about it. Like I can't control that I broke my foot. Like I really can't. That was like such a freak accident. I probably ran in that ocean hundreds of times, stepped on a pebble and just like shattered my foot. Yeah. Like that's a freak thing that happened. Maybe it was in God's plan for something greater. And that's sort of how I look at it. And I feel fortunate. My husband then proposed to me that summer. So I had something great to look forward to. Anyways, during the Olympics was planning a wedding. So, you know, everything in change. And I just feel grateful that I like was able to fill that with family and my friends and had such a great support system like along the way, because like I could not have done it without them. Yeah, 2021
was the year you announced your engagement with Sean.
Yes.
How did you two meet? Was it kind of love at first sight between the two of you?
I think he would say he loved me on the first date, and I'd say I loved him on the second date. So I feel like we've been like two little peas in a pod since then. We, like our second date, we went to the zoo and just like feel like we've just had such a great relationship. We have all the same sort of things that we love. We love working out together. I mean, he's a special operations Marine, and I'm an Olympic swimmer. So really? Definitely with the right type of person who doesn't mind if I'm like beating him in a workout. He like threw my weight over the fence the other day because I was ahead of him and we were trying to race through something. So we just have such a great relationship there, and like he loves the water and we love living here, right on the beach, surfing and all of that.
Yeah. So basically it was, what was the first date?
Coffee shop.
Coffee shop?
Yes, yeah.
Do you remember where?
In San Diego. Yeah, it's called Barefoot Coffee Roasters, and I went back actually a few years ago, and they have like a notebook to write in, and I wrote in like, oh, like I met my husband here for the first time, and they like ended up finding me on Instagram and DM'd me like, we can't believe you met your husband here, and it's just awesome. Cool for us to go back to when we visit friends out in San Diego. We always try to stop by because it's like where we sat at a coffee shop for like 2.5 hours talking with each other until they kicked us out because they were closing. Oh, that's funny. That's funny. You've become a content creator now, lifewithkathleen.com. Yeah. What's all that like? What's that life like compared to the life you had before? I think it's very, very different. One, I get to like sort of express a different side of me, but I've always been like very feminine in my sport. I'm always like look good, swim good, and I've always been like wearing sparkly Uggs or like wearing makeup when I swam. It was something I like loved to be able to be like feminine, but also be able to like kick in the pool pretty well. Like, you know, like I'm like, sure. I'm still great at this, but I also don't want to lose my feminine side. So I really love doing that. So sort of transitioning it out. And now I'm working on launching my own swimwear line, which I'm so excited for because I mean, I live at the beach. I probably own like 150 swimsuits. Like, you know, if there's anyone better who knows swimsuits, like I know a lot about them. So that's sort of what I'm working on as my project now. Hopefully like in the next summer it'll come out, and I'm really excited for that and enjoying just being able to like go see my family on like Father's Day or Mother's Day, or like take time off for a holiday, because in swimming you get about 2.5-3 weeks off a whole year, right? And that's in August, and like I'm training on Christmas Day, I'm training on Thanksgiving, so it's tough.
What are you training for now, though?
For me, no, just training for fun. Like, I
Okay.
love to work out. I got back surgery actually in April, so I had a whole year of pretty much recovering from that.
Wow.
So that was pretty tough. And for me, like, if I don't have working out, like, I mean, I've worked out my whole life, so I still try to work out every single day. I go to F45 in Wilmington, or Sean and I work out together, or go on a walk, or surf, or really anything. I love to stay active. I mean, it was a hard transition to go from training 6 or 7 hours a day to like 45 minutes. So for me, I know, like, for my mental health, for who I am as a person, like, I need a chunk of my day fitness related.
Right. And how did you get involved with the aquatic center?
So I've been approached a few times since I've moved here, just randomly, but luckily I just have like sort of fallen into this, and I'm so excited for it because like I look back on, I wish that this could have happened when I was here. I mean, I moved here when I was 24, 25, and I would have still swam if there was an Olympic-sized pool here, and I wish that that could have been an opportunity for me. And you never really know who the next like Kathleen Baker is, and you could have them in Wilmington, but not to mention just being able to be a part of a project that is so much deeper than just helping the elite athletes or having pool space. It's helping our veterans, it's helping us, our disabled community. It's giving a place for people to learn how to swim, and hopefully we can go even deeper than that.
What did it mean for you to be a 2024 inductee into North Carolina's Swimming Hall of Fame? That's pretty cool.
It was pretty cool. It was definitely like an interesting experience for me because most people get inducted usually like in their 50s or 60s. So I'm up there and everyone's reflecting on their whole life. And I'm like, I've only like had a year and a half to reflect on my swimming career. Like, I feel like I just stopped. So for me, it was just really cool to hear just the people who are being inducted, like what their stories were like and how much like their time as an athlete, a swimmer is still so impactful and the connections you make along the way. But I'm so proud to be from North Carolina and so proud to be like a North Carolina swimmer that it meant so much to me. I'm like born and raised here. My family lives here. And now I'm back here after moving from California. So it meant a lot to me.
I'd imagine, though, yeah, like you're saying, you're 20, mid-20s, and all of a sudden you're a Hall of Famer, as opposed to people who are 50 or 60. It's like, wait, I've got a lot to live yet.
Yes,
you
yes.
know?
So, and I always say like I had a soft retirement. I always like never even came out with my retirement, just in case I ever wanted to go back to the sport of swimming. So it definitely gave me the ability to have like a small amount of reflection on what my career really meant to me and like how many people that I feel like touched my career and made it so impactful.
Yep. I don't know if you knew this, but in the research that I did of Kathleen Baker, there is a 2020 Topps Olympic Kathleen Baker autographed card, number 71 out of 350, on eBay, $75.
And I signed all of those. So, yeah, it's so funny to look about. I never really know where they go. Like, I have a sports agent. I still work with him now. And he, like, will be like, oh, like, these people want you to sign it. And they'll pay me to sign it or whatever. And I'm always like, I wonder where these guys go. And, like, people always ask me, like, oh, do you have any? And I probably have some somewhere. And, like, my husband at one point put it on our fridge. And I was like, you've got to take it off our fridge. This is so embarrassing. Like it's just, like, me posed on, like, a little sports card.
Yeah. I mean, when I was growing up, it was baseball and basketball cards. There wasn't swimming and Olympic hopeful cards. I think it's cool.
Thank you. I think it's pretty cool too. I think a lot of people don't like follow swimming, and I'm not asking people to, but I'm like, the stories behind it. It's the biggest sport at the Olympic Games. We were like the celebs at the Olympics. So being able to be like sort of get to have that Olympic feeling outside of just the Olympic Games is what I hope the sport of swimming will eventually come. And especially like with this aquatic center happening here, I would love to see an elite team even come here to train. You're looking at, there's so many times like people from Europe come and train in the U.S. It would be awesome for our community to have like an elite swim team behind us, and I'd be really excited to see.
You swam professionally, I guess. And I started off as a sportscaster, but I didn't know there was a professional swimming league.
Yes, yeah.
What? Tell me about that, because I didn't know it existed.
It's pretty new. There's a professional swimming league, and it's sort of up in the air because it's actually run by like a Ukrainian like oligarch almost, pretty much.
Oh, okay.
So it's sort of been a halt since like the whole Ukraine war and everything that's happened there. But it was really cool to be a part of because they drafted you on teams. They put you on teams of people all through the country and the world. So I'm like on teams with people from Italy and Australia and people who I want to be friends with, but maybe you're not because you're seeing them at a competition. So I think it was just sort of something fun to do in swimming. I wouldn't say that it was something super serious for me, more just like an added fun to it. And I think a lot of people don't even realize like how people make money in swimming, and a lot of it comes from like winning medals. You like make a lot of money winning medals. I have an amazing sports agent. I mean, Greg Olson. He's Greg Olson's sports agent, so he's phenomenal. I got so many sponsorships through them, through like Golden Road Brewery, or I had Speedo, which was my main sponsorship, or I did a whole consulting with Peloton or Eli Lilly, the pharmaceutical company. So I've been fortunate to have such a great ability to use my swimming in a way to make money, which is the dream.
Yeah. You were also on a magazine cover at one point in time, right?
Yeah. I've been on a few, I'm pretty sure, but it's been cool. I've been able to travel the world for swimming. I've been able to do so many photo shoots. I got to do an NBC commercial with my mom. It's just been really cool to be able to make money in something that I love so much.
Pick those medals up for me.
Oh
and when you look at them, when you look at those things now, 8 years afterwards, what goes through your mind? Is it the memory of the race? Is it the memory of being on the podium? Is it the memory of all the work? What goes through Kathleen's mind when she looks at those?
I sometimes forget that I have them. They sit in my sock drawer, which everyone asks me, where do you keep them? I just never keep them out. But for me, I forget that I am this person, because for me, I'm just Kathleen, and sometimes my husband even says this, but when I look at him, it still feels surreal. I can't believe that I was able to accomplish what I wanted to accomplish at 12 years old or 8 years old. I've been telling my parents my entire life almost, I want to be an Olympic gold medalist swimmer, and now I am. And to be able to see it and to see that I own it, and that it's all banged up because it's been passed around hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times with all different athletes and communities, and being able to inspire people, it just is a surreal thing. And when I look at the gold, it immediately takes me back to standing on the podium and seeing our flags being raised and being able to sing our national anthem. And that moment is just sort of burned into my memory. You talk about a core memory, that's a core memory that will stay with me for the rest of my life.
Yeah, you close your eyes, you can still see it happening.
Yeah, completely. I remember what I felt like because I'm soggy. I remember feeling soggy because I'm wet from the swim, but I'm trying to put on this whole tracksuit to stand on the podium. But for me, I just look at them and I just am so grateful for the opportunity to represent my country at the highest level, and will never ever not appreciate that.
You keep them in a sock drawer?
I know, people think that's so funny, but you'll ask Olympic swimmers or any Olympians, be where do you keep your medals? In this drawer, because you never want them out, because I like to take them a lot of places, so I never like to have them in something I can't get access to.
Right.
But then at the same time, I'm not just going to keep them on my coffee table. That would be crazy.
But I mean, you said, I keep them in a sock drawer, and I'm like, wait a minute. Sock drawer?
Yep,
that's funny, though.
That's where they've gone, and I just had them out for this event at the Wilmington Aquatic Center, and it's funny. They're are you sure anyone's gonna want to see them? Because it's not kids. I'm it's surprising. Most people have never seen an Olympic medal, and most people are really excited to see one. Yeah. The first response is oh my God, these are so much heavier than I thought they were gonna be.
Yeah. How important is it to you to be a role model for that next generation of swimmer, for that young lady who's getting into the Wilmington public pool every summer now, who may meet Kathleen one day? Or it's for that 16-year-old who's swimming at Hoggard or New Hanover High School. How important is it for you to be that role model that I had Crohn's, I battled over it, I had injuries that I battled past, and I was still successful? How important is that to you now in your mid-20s? Yeah,
I mean, it's so important. My biggest message and my biggest takeaway is not only to believe in yourself, because I think believing in yourself takes you so much farther than people realize, but to surround yourself with people who believe in you too. I could not have been able to have the confidence I had in myself if I didn't have coaches, family members along the way, not only holding me accountable, but believing in me. I think if I had a doctor at the time who said oh, Kathleen, I'm sorry you have Crohn's disease, you're not going to be able to accomplish this, then I would be crushed. And I never know if my doctor really believed at 13 when I walked in there and was hey, I want to be an Olympic gold medalist, if she was yeah, or if she thought I was crazy, but she never made me feel that way. And so that whole time I felt I can do this. I have one of the best GI doctors at UNC Chapel Hill telling me you can do this. Yeah. And I think that that's something that I would want to be a role model for, is just really believing in yourself and really knowing that adversity shapes you and makes you a better athlete and person.
Is the life of an elite athlete as easy as sometimes as it looks? Because, and I say this because, sometimes now, especially on social media, you see them going places, you see them doing deals, you see them getting invitations to this, you see them making money in many instances. But is it a tough life?
Yeah, I would say so, and especially with swimming, like we don't have, like I mentioned, that off season. We are training year round, and I'm training in the pool like a minimum, like 5 to 6 hours a day. Then I'm in the weight room a couple hours a day. Then I have physical therapy or rehab, not to mention stretching or core work on my own. Like if you're looking at the amount of time a day I'm exercising or doing something for the sport, I'm doing way bigger than a full-time job, and I'm doing it at like a very, very high level.
Right.
And I look at the Olympic year, and a lot of people don't realize like what that Olympic year pressure feels like, but every action you do, especially in swimming, you measure yourself. Like, was I good enough today in what I ate? Was I good enough in what I drank? Did I eat enough? Did I sleep enough? Was my sleep interrupted? Did I make the right choice in what I want to do at swim practice? There's so much mental pressure that goes along with the physical pressure that you're putting yourself under. Like, I think in swimming especially, like, it's not a glamorous sport. Like, it's a grind of a sport. Like, it is so tough. It is so grueling. The best benefit is you can eat pretty much like whatever you want. But besides that, like, you really have to like what you're doing and enjoy doing something monotonous, like staring at the bottom of a pool for several hours a day, every single day of your life, and just measuring everything down to a tenth of a second, even in swim practice, how you're performing, what you're doing. And there's a lot of data that goes into that.
And the mental, it sounds to me like the mental toughness has got to be there. Physical is one thing, but mental's got to be so much different.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's one of the reasons I've been able to be successful in swimming is my mental attitude, because it's not always like the physically the best swimmer who makes the Olympic team. It is the overall best swimmer mentally and physically, because it's like you have to train yourself to perform at the highest level when there's the most pressure, or you need to like make sure that your like mental health is in the right place, that you're not anxious all the time. My coach always says like, don't squeeze the cat. Like, you got to trust the process. Don't squeeze the cat. And that's really hard to do. It's hard to like let go when you're having a bad couple weeks of training and know like this is just a process. Like, I'm still getting something out of it, even though it doesn't look like I am.
Yeah. Well, again, two-time Olympic medalist, former world record holder, NCAA champion, spokesperson for the Wilmington Aquatic Center, and just overall one of the most positive people that I've met in a long time. Kathleen Baker, thank you. Thank you for making the time today. I appreciate you making the time, and we're glad to have you here in Wilmington, and let's hope that Wilmington Access or Wilmington Aquatic Center Access project really takes off, because I think who knows, the next Olympic great may come from Wilmington, North Carolina.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that and love being in Wilmington and hope we never leave.
Thank you very much for being here. Thanks.
Thank you.
A big thank you to Kathleen Baker for taking time from her busy schedule to come into our studio and join us for this week's podcast interview, and for also allowing several people in the newsroom to see gold and silver Olympic medals up close for the very first time. You can follow Kathleen on her website. It is lifewithkathleen.com, and you can learn more about the Olson Farm project that she is supporting by going to this story on our website and the WECT News app. Now, before we go, I'd like to ask you a favor. Please follow or subscribe to the One-on-One with John Evans podcast on whatever app you use to listen to your favorite shows. And if you would be so kind, please leave us a rating or a review. The more feedback we have from friends like you, the higher we'll be listed on the apps, and the better chance we have of bringing in even more new listeners. This is the last episode for 2024. We thank you for joining us for another great round of interviews, and we will see you for Season 9 in 2025. I'm John Evans. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of One-on-One.